Hey everyone, we have some super exciting Riftbound news today. Frank Scarron, who's the game designer of Riftbound, has just posted an entire article highlighting all levels of organized play for Riftbound as it comes to market at the end of this year. If you don't know what that means, is essentially going to cover everything you need to know from your weekly locals at your LGS all the way up to your World Championships, as well as a potential judges program that will be coming and a lot more exciting news. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Grenton. I'm a predominant MMO content creator. However, I used to play Magic professionally and now I'm a Magic the Gathering judge, play Commander, CDH, stuff like that with friends. And I'm also a Pokemon professor. So this specific aspect is super important to me as I've been very excited for Riftbound for a long time now. Before we get into it, as always, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button if you want to see more content like this, and let me know down below what TCG you're coming from and to the Riftbound sphere. Also, if you are a Legends of Runeterra player who's making the swap, I want to know that as well. I'm curious to see where everyone's coming from. Without further ado, let's jump right into it. So as you can see here, this is posted on today, July 28th. Whenever this video goes live, it will go live, but this is the time of the recording. And as mentioned, game designer Frank Scarron explains the organized play from locals all the way to worlds. What's really cool is he starts off by introducing himself. Gamer tag or handle is Vriss. He's a card designer on Riftbound, and he specializes in competitive game balance and final design, which I think is very important to have at a TCG level, because not only do you want to have a casual sort of scene and people who could just pick up the game and play at locals and play with their friends, but you also want a very fleshed out competitive scene, because that's a non-negligible amount of the community and what's going to obviously bring a lot of eyes to the game. What's cool is they're kicking it off right off the bat with tournament rules. So you have an entire document of all the tournament rules as they are laid out currently. Obviously, these are all subject to change. There hasn't been any, to my knowledge at least, official Riftbound tournaments. But what's really cool is they discuss a bunch of different facets of the game, as well as different rules enforcement levels is kind of what, if you're familiar with Magic the Gathering, is something that's very important, but Riftbound has their own kind of version of it. So what are tournament rules? Like I mentioned, they're the complete rules required to play organized Riftbound. So you have the core rules, which define, game systems, game rulings, how to play precisely, what keywords mean, what recycling a rune means, what targeting means. And then you have your tournament rulings, which are going to define workings and events and how to play formal competitive Riftbound. So including, obviously, policies and penalties, which in a perfect world, we wouldn't give penalties to anybody, but mistakes happen, and you have to obviously ensure a tournament that has competitive integrity. So what's super interesting as well is the judges program. There's not a ton of information on this yet. So obviously the rules themselves are only part of the equation. The practical way these rules will be brought to life is through a judges program. And those of you who followed Magic used to have an official judges program. They then stopped having a judges program, and it was picked up by some third parties that wasn't officially supported by Wizards. And only recently has Wizards put a job posting out for a manager for the judges program. It's very important to have obviously established and certified judges by the actual company that is putting forth the game, to make sure that your world championships, your regionals, even your locals have people there who are able to obviously enforce the rules, but especially at a local level, bring new players into the game, because there's no better resource than an organizer or a judge. And we see this often with Pokemon, where they have their professor program that is very, very well thought out and very well fleshed out. And I do hope Riot pulls some inspiration from there. So what is a judge? Obviously, in tournaments, they are the officials who will be experts on both the core and tournament rules, and they'll make sure players receive a fair and enjoyable experience at any Riftbound event. So while judges are a crucial role of enforcing the rules and making sure penalties are applied appropriately, they also act as advocates for learning and understanding of the rules. Like I mentioned earlier, right? Judges aren't merely tasked with facilitating tournament play. They also serve to promote their local communities. This includes helping new players get a better understanding of the rules, while also promoting more casual play outside of a tournament setting. Myself as a judge in Magic the Gathering, my favorite event to run and judge are pre-releases, for the very pure reason that it is the event that attracts the most amount of new players. I can run a pre-release, and we just had one with Edge of Eternities for Magic the Gathering, and we had 67 players. We had a couple latecomers who showed up to a one-night pre-release. And of those 67 players, about half of them were new to Magic and they just came with a friend. So that is something that is super, heartwarming as a TCG fan myself, is that there's still new people who are interested in trading card games. So being a judge is not only just, being in that, uniform at a tournament and giving people penalties or making sure people are, executing fair play. It's also being an advocate for the game. So this is what they're calling, obviously, their levels of competition and competitive structure. So now that we have, obviously, the judges are going to be a thing and the rules are established, what kind of events are you going to be able to experience in Riftbound? So what's cool is you have some local store events. So these are events like we're mentioning here that are going to be on a regular cadence, and you'll have, release events, kind of like pre-release events. And they actually go into the first one here, which is the Origins release event. So it's going to be in October 2025, so later this year, and it's going to be a pre-con battle. So there's no pricing for placing well. Just show up, play, and you get pricing. Another TCG that just did this was Gundam with their starter deck brawls. They had promos for participants, and they had no pricing for winners. And it's a organized play level. So you're going to hear this a lot. Organized play level, OPL. Magic has their rules enforcement level, RELs, which dictates how the judges and organizers will treat the event. So this is a casual OPL, organized play level. This means that it's going to be the first, obviously, organized play for Riftbound. Participants are going to be able to buy one of the champion decks, so either Jinx, Lee Sin, Victor, along with ways to upgrade the decks, which is super interesting. It's very much like a pre-release, and then you'll be able to battle other players to learn and play Riftbound. This is more similar to like a Pokemon build and battle with like a new set that comes out. Pokemon's a little bit more RNG, where you'll open it and you'll have two 20 card decks that you'll smash together to a 40 card deck, and then you have a couple packs that you can open, and by opening those packs you can then swap cards in and out of your decks if you have better trainer cards and stuff like that. Magic works on a completely different pre-release thing, where they'll just give you 6 packs and you make a 40 card deck out of those 6 packs, as well as a bank of basic lands. And then there's also going to be pre-releases. So 1 week before any set releases, it's going to be a sealed event, and it's only going to have prizing from product from the new set. And again, it's going to be at a casual OPL, organized play level. So this will be, again, you'll just show up, you'll build a deck from new product, and then you'll be able to play. They don't mention here if you're going to purchase a pre-con and then modify it like the Origins event, or if it's going to be more akin to a Magic the Gathering, where you'll jump in, you'll just open random packs, you'll make a deck, and you'll get started. Next, we go into our weeklies, right? So they're going to be called Nexus Nights, which I think is a pretty cool name. So it's going to be a weekly, and it's going to be on a day that works the best for your store. So obviously check in with your LGS if they're going to be carrying Riftbound and organizing, organized play events. And then obviously make sure that you let them know that you want to attend Nexus Nights, let them know what days work for you. And usually stores will be receptive to their clientele, and then plan a day that either they have room, because a lot of stores are already running events for other card games, or a day that works for the vast majority of the people interested in the card game. So again, it's going to be a store preference for format, which is super interesting, which means they don't have to do 1v1. They could do, hey, today we're going to do a 1v1v1, or a 1v1v1v1, or a 2v2. So that you can kind of mix things up and get people interested in different formats. It doesn't have to kind of just be that 1v1 standard format. It's going to be at a casual OPL, and it's going to have some 3-card packs, including promos. This leads me to believe that Riftbound is kind of going the direction of almost Pokemon with their prize packs, where they're going to have a separate sealed product that isn't for sale, that you'll be able to get through participating in either weeklies or locals or tournaments, and whatever the case may be. So Nexus Nights are your bread and butter events. They're going to provide you regular opportunity to get together with your friends and play Riftbound, in a relaxed environment. You can sling some 1v1 or 2v2 or free-for-all brawl, like I mentioned. And then for stores with a competitive scene, it's going to be a great opportunity to try out new decks and prepare for the Summoner Skirmish. So Pokemon does their weeklies. A lot of people will bring, jank decks or different sort of strategies that isn't quote-unquote meta right now to test. And then for league challenges and league cups, these are the more competitive events for Pokemon, they'll bring stuff that has been proven and tested. So that's kind of what brings us to a Summoner Skirmish. So you'll have it 2 times per set, 1 month after a set's release, and 1 month before a next set release. It's going to be a 1v1 constructed format. And your prizing is going to have a promo for all participants, a promo for your top 8, a champion playmat, and a round 1 buy at your regional qualifier. So not your regional, but the event to qualify for regionals. I think this is super cool. This is more akin to a cup in Pokemon. Pokemon awards championship points but they do award a playmat and promos and stuff like that. And the organized play level for this obviously will be at a competitive organized play level. So this is the accumulation of competitive play at the local event. They're going to offer opportunity to put your practice to the test, show off your deck building skills. And if you're looking to try your hand at the competitive side of card gaming, this is the place to start. For most players, if it follows the same sort of trajectory as Magic and Pokemon, this is going to be the most competitive event that you're going to play. So it's important, and I doubt anyone from Riot's going to be watching this, but it's important that the participation promos, the top 8 promos, and the champion playmats, this pricing has to be good enough. Because some people are going to get either, I don't want to say stage fright, but they don't want to go play a premier event. They don't want to go play for a regional. They don't want to go travel 2 hours to play. They just want to show up to their LGS, 2 times a set and have their tournament, right? So we have to make sure that that pricing, this is not just a stepping stone for your regionals and regional qualifiers, but it could also be a finish line for some players. So now we go to our premier events. So premier events are the next step up from locals. These events are going to be at specific locations, and it's going to bring you the highest levels of competitive play. So while the main event for these tournaments will be a competitive 1v1, these events will also hold sides and includes a prize wall. If you are a Magic player, these are similar to an SGC con if you're in the US, or a face-to-face convention tour stop if you're in Canada, where you'll have an RCQ, like a regional qualifier, or you'll have regionals that are there. But you'll also have like a commander section or a draft section, or, a sealed section, and you'll have a prize wall where you can earn tickets and then, earn sealed product, or like a big Magic the Gathering card that you see behind me that I actually want at one of these events. And then obviously you do have your tournaments that you have your local grinders and your, region-based grinders who will show up and compete in those. So you have regional qualifiers and then obviously regional championships. So the first regional qualifier is in December. It's only a couple months after the game actually launches. It's going to be a 1v1 constructed event. You don't have to qualify, obviously, for a qualifier. But as we saw above here, if you win a skirmish, you get a bye in round 1, which is obviously very important because regional qualifiers placing obviously matters. So getting a free win is something that you should definitely be looking for. Pricing is going to be obviously cash pricing, and then you'll have participation promos, top 8 promos, and then best of pricing for the regional championship qualifications. This is a little bit ambiguous, so like best of could mean a lot of things, but it just pretty much, you're gonna have cash for top cut, essentially, probably top 8 promos, and then a promo for showing up and playing, and then obviously special awards to top performers. So with each, here we go, it explains right here. So your best of is going to be like, you finished the best of Garen, or the best of Victor, or the best of Volibear. You'll actually have specific pricing for that, which honestly is super cool. I doubt there's a world where you don't make top cut if you kind of crushed with Volibear or you crushed with Victor, but just in case, it's kind of like a little blanket to have a little bit of extra pricing. And then obviously, why are you playing these? It's to qualify for regional championships, which will be exactly 1 year from the release of Riftbound, which I think is really cool. They're giving you an entire year to kind of grind for qualifiers and your skirmishes and learn the game and establish a proper meta and be able to compete in these high-end tournaments. It's going to be obviously 1v1 constructed, and you have to qualify for this, so you can't just buy into this tournament. Pricing will be cash pricing, a participation promo, top 8 promos, and then obviously best of prizes and a world's qualification. Very important. And the organized play level is going to be professional. So Magic has regular, which is casual, competitive, and then professional. And then what Riftbound has is casual, and then competitive, and then professional. So a little bit different, but professional is the highest level of enforcement and the highest level of judging that you're going to get, which technically even misplays can be or will be actually penalized by judges. So it's very important that they host it long enough after the game comes out that people aren't making little errors here and there, that they'll be able to kind of get penalized for a misplay in a tournament that is very important because you're qualifying for Worlds here. So obviously, like they said here, it's gonna be the first organized plays events that require qualification to play in the main event. These events are for the best of Riftbound players in a region and will come some of the fiercest. Venues will be jam-packed with side events for all attendees to enjoy. So again, even if you're not competing in regionals, but your friend is, you can still show up, play some Riftbound in a side event, have some fun. I love tournaments and events that have a side event, not only for players, but also for judges. There's only a limited amount of judge spots that you have at main events. Some judges want to just be a judge for side events and only want to judge at a casual rule enforcement level, organized play level or competitive organized play level. And they don't want to take that next step up, much like players. So having side events that they can still apply to and go gain experience at regionals, I think is super important. And then obviously Worlds, our first Worlds will be in 2027. So sometime at least a year and a half after the game comes out, you will have to qualify. And obviously the prizes will be cash, and then you'll have additional prizing, and it'll obviously be judged at a professional organized play level. So they don't have a ton of details for it, but they do have it slated for 2027. It's going to be a cumulative accumulation of competitive play across all regions. So winner regionals, qualify to Worlds, essentially TLDR. Obviously, what's super important, rotations in the standard format. So in Riftbound, standard is going to be the constructed format. It refers to the available cards you can build your deck with, consisting of the most recently released sets of cards. Riftbound's first standard set will begin with the release of Origins, which is set 1, and then will consist of Origins and the next 2 years of release sets. After the release of Origins Riftbounds, they'll release 4 standard legal card sets per calendar year. So that ends up being Origins plus 8 sets. I think this is great. Magic recently bumped it up to 6 standard legal sets, and I feel, even as someone who doesn't play standard, but I judge, it's a lot to keep up with. I think leaving it at 4 standard legal card sets per year is fine. If you want to do a mini set or something smaller, a little fun thing here and there, you can. But I think this is a really, really solid tempo, and having a 2-year rotation, I think is, pretty good as well. So obviously rotating is a tool that allows you to ensure the format stays fresh. You don't have problems with the meta and stuff like that. After the initial 9 standard sets have been established, when a new set comes out, the oldest 4 legal sets in standard will rotate out for the first rotation. The first 4 sets of 2026 and Origins will rotate out for a total of 5 sets. So they have like a little exception for the first one. They're going to rotate Origins and the first 4 sets of 2026 in 2028, if my math is correct. So let's walk through the first couple of rotations. So you're going to have Origins that comes out in 2025, and then between 2025 and 2027, we're going to have 4 sets released between 2025 and 2027. 4 sets a year. And then in 2028 at the beginning, you're gonna have the 10th set that releases, and then the rotation will occur, removing Origins and set 2, 3, 4, 5. And then obviously in 2028, you're gonna have sets 11, 12, 13 that release. And then at 2029, you're gonna have set 14 that releases, and that will remove 6, 7, 8, and 9 from rotation. So by 2029, you'll have no 2027 sets that are legal anymore, right? So that's pretty much how it's gonna go. So this cycle will continue in standard, growing, shrinking in size from 4 to 8 sets as new sets are released and older sets rotate out. We know the topic of rotation can be sensitive for players. Some players will be attached to certain styles. With that in mind, we plan on creating and supporting additional formats to accommodate sets that have rotated out. So we'll have eternal formats, maybe some sort of commander format. The game is balanced to play in a 1v1v1 format, so I wouldn't be surprised to see some eternal and legacy formats come out here. So now someone asks the little Q&A here. What did you do if you felt the metagame was in an unhealthy place prior to rotation? Are you going to consider banning any cards? So while the Riftbound team is composed of some of the best designers, competitive card game players, we know that there are orders of magnitude more players ready to push cards to the absolute limits. All this to say, we would never use bannings as a tool to shake up the metagame for its own sake, but rather to correct extreme circumstances that we felt were detrimental to the overall health and fun of the game. So TLDR, bans are on the table. The way it's worded here is it's going to be a little bit more, the way it's worded here is it's not going to be liberally used, is the best way I could put it. It's going to be something that they use as a last resort, and something that they can use to actually just correct the metagame if it's, we have a, monstrous rage Magic the Gathering situation or something, or Oko, for example. So answer to some common questions. What's an organized play level OPL? As I kind of talked about earlier, it's a system used to set expectations for players and judges attending Riftbound events. An event's OPL defines how strictly the tournament rules will be applied at the event, how severe the penalty for breaking those rules will be. OPL is an important way to delineate between levels of organized play to make sure you can find the right environment to play in. Most organized play levels run at low OPL casual and are focused on fun and social interaction, not rules enforcement. Enforcement at this level is aimed at sportsmanship and a learning tool. So I will very rarely give penalties at like a pre-release for Magic, unless someone's like, blatantly cheating or something like that. It's enforcement is, hey, we can, walk it back a step, right? We can like rewind the game a step if it's not too detrimental. This is how it should have played out. And it's more of a teaching moment for players. IOPL, competitive or professional, tournament rules are used to enforce fair competitive play with higher expectations and more significant penalties. So a misplay or someone using a trigger incorrectly or, you know, playing a card incorrectly at a casual OPL would just result in us kind of like walking it back and us coaching the player on how to do better. At a high OPL would obviously come with a penalty, perhaps a game loss, depending on the severity of the infraction. So what's the difference between constructed and limited? Same as other games. Constructed are going to be obviously constructing a deck from your collection of cards, and limited refers to an event where you don't bring any of your own cards. Instead, you build a deck on the spot from a limited card pool, hence the name limited. Card pool will be generated from opening packs, either individually or through drafting the contents of the packs with other players, and you'll get to keep all the cards you get during the event. Unlike in a constructed event where you have a planned deck going in, you'll have to work with what you open. Initially for Riftbound organized play, you'll encounter limited pre-release events for new sets and limited side events at major events. Off the bat, major events will be focused on constructed play, but there will always be opportunity for competitive limited play in the future. So no, pro tour level where you have to like win a limited event and also win a modern event and also win a standard event. It's just going to be constructed 1v1 for the foreseeable future. So both in limited constructed events, they can be played in 1v1, 2v2, or a 3 or 4 player free-for-all. A couple other things here before we wrap up. In the Riftbound tournament, how many games are in a match? Can I change my deck between games? So at high level of OPL, so professional or competitive, matches are going to be 2 out of 3, and you'll need to have the same main deck configuration for the first game of each match, including your chosen champion. However, you'll be able to change the configuration of your deck between games of a set using an 8-card sideboard. So something to note. Sideboard's a tool to give you more options during deck construction. You aren't required to include a sideboard. And for limited formats, your sideboards are just going to be the cards you didn't register in your main deck. And at a low OPL, you're allowed to alter the configuration of your deck even between rounds. So very similar to Magic here. Your game 1 of every round will have to be the main deck you submit. And then you can modify it as you see fit within the series. So who is eligible to play? So details on eligibility can be found in section 300 of the organized rules. So this just says like if you're like suspended, you can play. If you're, under the age of 13 and you don't have your parents' permission or guardian's permission, you can't play. So I'll leave a link to all this in the description below. Our sample cards, the ones from trial deck, legal to play in events. So obviously, cards that are marked sample across the front face are not legal for Riftbound organized play. These cards are for demonstration purpose only and cannot be used at events. Official printed cards from any language are legal for organized play, but all cards you use must be of the same language, which is super interesting. You can't have like a one of Japanese Ari in your deck, for example. Either your whole deck has to be Japanese or none of your deck. Or your whole deck has to be English, or your whole deck has to be, I don't know what other languages they're translating to, Greek, because I'm Greek, I'll just, say that. Even when playing with sleeves, due to slight differences in card printing styles between the regions, mixing cards of a different language could create situations where specific cards were identifiable by feel, which is super interesting that depending what region you're from and the cards you open, the actual dimensions of the card, foiling, thickness, curvature maybe, are maybe different. So as a judge, if I can I'll just take a deck here. I have a deck of like Gundam cards. You can't really cut to any one specific card here, right? But let's say we've seen this in Magic where you have like a foil that's kind of pringled. If you can cut to the card and you can identify it by touch without looking at the front face of the card, then technically it's not legal for organized play because you now have an unfair advantage by running that card. So obviously, that's all the information they have today. For us, I think this is a really great start. The tournament rules seem extremely comprehensive, which is awesome to see. Obviously, we have bribery, wagering, theft, cheating, all the penalties, unsporting conduct. Like, it goes into everything, which is amazing for someone like myself who's going to be, wanting to judge Riftbound when it does release later this year. Yeah, that's all I had for you today. I usually don't make videos just talking about like articles or news, but I felt like this was something near and dear to my heart and I wanted to kind of put some content out about it. It's my first ever Riftbound content. I'm going to be playing some more games, probably on Tabletop Simulator, maybe printing out some proxies before the game comes out so I can at least play, make some content, show you guys some cool stuff with Riftbound. But I'm super excited about it. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps me out as a smaller creator. And as well, if there's any Riftbound content or TCG content in general you want to see from me, don't be shy to let me know. And like I mentioned, let me know what card game you're coming from. I'm very curious. Are you Magic players, Pokemon players, Runeterra, or flesh and blood, whatever the case may be. I want to know where you're coming from. I want to know what you're most excited about for Riftbound. So that's all I had for you today. Thank you all for watching. Again, my name's Grenton, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day.